Hey guys, so I've been playing a lot of Fallout 4, and I imagine that many of you guys have been playing a bunch as well. But there's one system in the game that is not explained very well at all. The workshop system, the whole settlement building aspect of it. So I've been playing for a while, and I've noticed that there are a lot of things that don't seem very intuitive right off the bat, so I'd like to create a little video with some tips for everyone just to show some useful things that many people don't know about, or some things that many people do that you really shouldn't be doing. So, I'm starting off here in Sanctuary. I got a little settlement up and running, I got a decent number of people, I got all my resources set up, but maybe I don't have any room for some beds, so I want to make a new house. So what do? Of course, you want to open up your workshop by holding down V or whatever key you may have bound to it. So logically, you would go to one of the foundations of the house that you already have. So I found this foundation right here next to the default house where everyone hangs around. So you'd think what you would do, since you already have the foundation, you don't need to worry about flooring. So you would just go to walls and then start placing them down. So I would just go over here and I'd put down a wall here and one here, and that looks about right. So let's put down some more. But this is where you start running into issues. You can't make corners like this, so you'd have to have a little gap here. If you wanted to make a doorway, say, let's put one right here. Put a doorway down. That's going to create issues too. See, the doorway is actually slightly lower than the wall, so now that you've done that, there's a little bit of a gap below the wall there. So there are a lot of issues if you just build right off the foundation, so we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do, we're going to get rid of all this stuff here. Now, if you've played the game for longer than a few hours, you should probably figure this out by now, but if you haven't, then what we're going to do, instead of using the foundation, we want to create a floor on the foundation. So, we're going to create the flooring here, put everything down, make a nice little base for our house. The actual foundation of the house that was previously here does not function as a floor, so you need to have this floor here, and any of these floors work. So like you can add this floor, you can add a little bit of concrete down, and you can add, if you want a second story, you can always add in some stairs, but this is the type of floor you're meant to be using for this. Now that we've done that, we can add in as many walls as we want. We can put walls down here and they all snap properly, unless you do that, of course. But yeah, you can add in walls, make sure they snap. And now that you have the floor down, it can snap to the corner, so it makes a proper little edge right there. And the doorway should work properly. See, it's going down now as opposed to being lifted up off the ground. And you can add any of these pieces that you'd like. Let's see, we can add in this guy for a little bit of extra detail on the front, making a little canopy that's hanging over. But yeah, that's the first most basic piece of advice I'd like to give for people who are just learning the workshop. Another thing involving floors like this is, say you want to build somewhere that's not flat. You have this foundation here, so it makes sense that you'd want to build on it, but what if you want to keep going? Well, if you build like this, that doesn't look very good because the floors are floating above the ground, so if you actually built anything, half of your building would be floating. So, what you want to do, instead of using this type of floor and just the flat wood, you want to move over a little bit, and there are two options. You can do the concrete here, which looks pretty solid. I like to think it works pretty well. You have the concrete that goes down into the floor. It clips into the floor, so it looks like it's properly built. Another thing you can do is use this foundation here with the pylons going down, and these will also clip into the ground, so it'll make it look like your building is properly supported. So I recommend using either one of these options, so that when you're building on a non-level surface, your house does not float. It actually has supports to it. Apart from acting as foundation for your buildings, there's another interesting thing that these concrete foundations can be used for. Now, you can place them down on the uneven surfaces as I just talked about, but say that you want to create a wall of some sort. That's very difficult to do apart from this method here that I'm about to show you. So you put down the base of your wall. It's easiest if you use the bottom, but technically you can build from the top down. Then you place a stairwell on the side. If you then take your concrete blocks and put them on top, it creates a seamless wall that can extend up as high as you want it to. So if you wanted to go up more than this, you absolutely can. you can add another stairwell right here, and then add your concrete block to the top of that. So you can create an infinitely tall concrete structure. Well, not infinitely, of course. Like, you would need to be within the build limits, but I mean, there's no limit to how high this can go as long as it's in a buildable area. So I'm just hanging around in this little house I've created. I quite like how it looks, but there's one thing. I want to add a window over here. But if you go into the walls section, there aren't any walls that have windows in them. The closest you can get is something that has a lot of gaps between the wood, but that looks awfully sloppy. It doesn't look like a proper window. So what you want to do in order to make a window, you actually want to go back to the start of this menu and select the doorway piece here. You put it where you want your window. Now, of course, this would be a really bad window because you could just walk right out and it looks not like a window at all. But what do you want to do? After you do that, back out one menu, and then go over to Structures, Wood, Miscellaneous. And from here you can find this railing here. You can put it in the doorway to create a window like that. But that's not the only piece that can do that. If you take that back, you can go into Miscellaneous again, and you can also use these fence models to do it. This one works right here, the second to last one. It creates some boards right there to stop you from walking out. And the last fence model works as well. So you can create various types of windows by using a combination of the wall doorway and the railings. Now, this system of building works quite well for more basic structures, but there is one big limitation. It only works properly if you use 90-degree angles on essentially everything in the structure. Now, what if we wanted to create a more angled wall? Well, we would, of course, go find our wall that we wanted, and we can place it down. Let's say we want to make an angled wall right here. Now I want to have this other one at a nice angle right here, but I can't do that. It just snaps to the previous wall. There's no way to unsnap it. The best I could do is move it over here and build it there, but then there's a giant gap between them, and we don't want that. So how do I go about making this wall? Well, what I want to do, I want to go all the way back to the main menu, go back over to decorations, to floor coverings. Now just choose a floor mat. Any of them should work. I just use the first one for convenience. So place the floor mat down, make sure it's in a spot that's visible so that you can easily access it. And once it's down, go to your wall again. So you go to your wall, and then you place it down so it's directly on top of the floor mat. Now, this can be a little bit finicky, so try to get it down and try. What you want to do, once you put it down, you press and hold E on the mat. And if you did it correctly, it should snap both the mat and the wall to your cursor. So now that you've done this, the wall no longer snaps because it's using the hitbox of the mat, which does not snap to the wall. So you can align it as you please, direct as close to the wall as you can, and you place it down. And now you have an angled wall, and once you've done that, you can simply select the mat and get rid of it. And now you have a wall that is angled. Now that we've learned all of these little tips for creating things in the workshop, surely we'd want to create more settlements than just the base one at Sanctuary. So I'm here at an outpost up to the north of the map, this guy right here. And you can see I haven't done anything with it yet. And I want to create something here. I want to create a nice little house. So, of course, you would open up your workshop. And you'd go to structures, you'd find whatever floor you'd like. But there's a problem. The inventory of the workshop at Sanctuary is completely separate from this one, so I don't have enough resources to build anything substantial. I can't even build a single piece of flooring here. So, what you could do is you could just fast travel to Sanctuary, pick up all the stuff in your workshop and bring it to this workshop, but that's very tedious and time consuming, and of course if what's in your workshop weighs more than what you can carry, it would have to take multiple trips unless you have the perk where you can fast travel while encumbered, but even with that, I'd rather not go through that every time I want to build anything. So, what you want to do, you want to go to your map, and we want to go to wherever we have settlers. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to travel back to Sanctuary, because that's where all my resources are, but I'm not going to pick any of them up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a supply line that goes to the outpost that I want to build at. originally, you can't create these supply lines. There are two things you need. For one, of course, you need a settler who is unoccupied to man these supply line. So you need to make sure to have built up a settlement and have a recruitment beacon so that you can actually send people places. So that's the first thing you need. But another thing you need is you need to go to your perks chart, and you need the perk under charisma called local leader. Now, you don't need the second rank, you will need the first rank. This says that you can establish supply lines between your workshop settlements. So this requires 6 charisma and 1 point in the perk. So if you don't have much charisma, it can be a little bit problematic, but it shouldn't be too hard to get, and it's well worth it. So what this allows you to do, you can find a settler in any settlement of yours that is currently unoccupied. So let's find someone. As a quick side note, this settler should not be a named character. Their name should be settler. Generally, story-related characters are not able to make supply runs for you. So we see this guy here. He's not doing anything. So what we want to do, we want to go into our workshop view, mouse over him, and press Q. Now you'll get a list of settlements that you have discovered and own. So this is the outpost here that we want to send him to. So we just click on that and then confirm it. Now this guy, what his job is, he runs supplies between Sanctuary and the outpost. So he's no longer named settler, he's named provisioner. That's his job now. So how can we confirm that this is in fact the correct settlement that we want? Well, we can open up our Pip-Boy, and then at the bottom of the map of the screen here, you can see it says C, show supply lines. So if we press C, we can see all of the supply lines that we have created. So we can see that there is in fact a supply line running between Sanctuary and the outpost. Now, I've done some of this on my own time, of course, to learn about this, and the settlements do not have to be directly connected to each other. If they have a third point between them, there is no issue. As long as you can draw a route to them, they'll be connected. So right now, Sanctuary and Abernathy Farm are connected, even though there's no line directly between them. They have to be connected in some other way, as long as they are part of the same network. So now that the outpost is in fact connected, let's go there. Alright, here we are at the outpost, and now let's actually get to building. If we open up our workshop, as soon as it loads up, we should be able to find that once we go into our structures, we have access to all of the wood from Sanctuary. You can see before I couldn't even build one floor, but now I have plenty of wood, so I can build whatever I need to. So now we know that the two settlements are in fact connected, and we can create whatever we want. This is much, much easier than going back and forth between settlements, carrying all the junk you can with you. That's a very inefficient way that I would not recommend to anyone. So, we have this connected. Well, now that we have learned all of these things, how to get around some obstacles while creating settlements, we can create some pretty cool stuff. I have this settlement right here at the Red Rocket Station, and I think it's quite nice, but I feel like there is something missing. I want to create a little bit more. So if I go into my workshop, I have everything I need. I have all the resources from all of my other workshops because they are all connected through supply lines. So I want to create another little building here. Just right on the ground here, nothing too fancy. So let's start building. But there is one issue. If you look in the upper right of the screen, you'll see that there's a size meter. Now, this is how big your settlements can be. The more objects you place down, the closer and closer you'll get to hitting the size limit. This can be a pretty big issue. It will stop you from creating the biggest settlement that you want, and while this was put in the game for good reason, some computers do have a lot of issues in terms of performance in large settlements. If you have a good computer that can run everything, then why shouldn't you be able to create the largest settlement that you want to? Let's see how close we can get to the limit. Here, let's start adding in some walls. I can make a nice little shack here, raised up above the ground, and keep building. But you'll notice the size meter is getting very, very close to fill. See, now nothing more can be built. So, how can we remedy this? Now, what of course you could do, you could always just delete some of your other base, but I really like this base. I think it looks really cool, and I just want to add more to it. So, as soon as this combat stops, I'll go through how to do that. So, I really don't want to delete any of this base. I really like it. I like how it looks, I like the aesthetic of it, but it just doesn't have enough beds, and I've hit my size limit. See, we have 9 people, but we need 2 more beds, and we have nowhere to put them. But since the size limit is hit, what can I do? Well, there's a little trick you can do to get around the size limit of the game. So, what you want to do, you want to go near your workshop and open up your inventory. Now what I do, I drop all of my weapons, because I have no weapons currently in the workshop. So just drop every weapon that you have. It doesn't necessarily have to be every weapon, but just drop a bunch of objects on the floor. Now what you want to do, you want to press and hold your V or whatever you do to open up your workshop, and then mouse over each of your weapons and press tab and then yes on each of them. You'll notice that the size meter, every time I store a weapon in the workshop, it's going down. So this is essentially raising the size limit, allowing me to create more things. So now, once you've done that, you can go to transfer in your workshop and pick up all of your weapons again. And you'll notice that even though we did that, there is still a lowered size limit here in our settlement, so we can create more things. So, now that I have done that, I've increased the amount of things I can build. If we go over to the little house we've created here, well, the half of the house that we've created here, what we can do, we can hop up here, and we can start building again. Even though before we did hit the limit, we are still allowed to build things because we increased the limit on what we can build. So, we can make our little house here. And everything's looking quite nice, and of course you can see that the size limit does still go up as time goes on here. But the thing is, if you ever hit the limit again, you can just drop all your weapons again and fix it the same way as we did before. Everything's looking quite nice, and we need those 2 beds still because we do not have enough beds in our settlement. So let's quickly make the entrance here. Nice looking little hut, I like it. Oh, forgot about a roof, but yeah, so that just about concludes the little video here that I've created. Hopefully this helps people out with little things that may not seem intuitive or logical to people who start playing with the creation here of settlements. This is a system which I feel like there is still a lot to learn about, but I have not been able to find anything else that is this easy to convey and still be shown. So I think a lot of it's really just experimentation. Play around with it, see what you can do, and see what you can create. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, or don't do any of those things because you have your own life. I can't tell you what to do. If you don't like it, then dislike it. Let me know. I mean, I'm up for any sharing of opinion at all. So, thank you for watching.